Yeah.
And oftentimes we lose that as we go forward in life. And so part of what I'm trying to do is help people get back to what was very natural at one time. So it has other values too, because one of the things that you will hear about coaches will say, or athletes will say, play more instinctively. Play by instinct. Well, what does that exactly mean? It means play through your senses. Let your senses dictate. What is more instinctive than senses? Nothing is more instinctive than your senses. So in focusing on feel and the sensory, we're also talking about playing more instinctively. And most importantly, and this is one of the key aspects of my approach, the sensory experience is pleasurable. Sports are naturally pleasurable. That's why kids just do it automatically.
And I'm sure it helps them get rid of a lot of pent-up energy.
Right. But how I leverage that is, letting pleasure lead effectiveness. Pleasure leads, effectiveness follows. Now, golfers tend to think, I will feel better, I will have a better experience if I'm more effective. So there's always this idea of improving on their performance.
Yeah, I'll feel better when I get the par, but you're saying if you feel better with each shot, you're more likely to get a par.
Or if you find the pleasure.
Yeah.
I will show you in a bit. We'll do a little demonstration. If you find the pleasure will lead you to more effective playing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's interesting, working with a golfer, and he's getting better, getting more effective. The more effective he gets, the more anxious he gets, because now the margin of error is getting less and less. So there's more anxiety in terms of performance.
Right. And when you say effective, like, do you measure effectiveness by the amount of pleasure he's getting or by the number of strokes he's dropped?
When I was talking about effective in this case, his handicap's lowering.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing more effectively. It doesn't mean he's having more pleasure, though. So,
yeah.
You see, so in considering pleasure to be the primary goal, not only will you play better, but you'll have a better experience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with golf.
I think that's one of the problems with life, is that people aren't getting enough pleasure.
Right.
And then people can take what you're teaching them on a golf course about feel and pleasure and apply that to all the other aspects of their life.
That's right. That's right. That's part of what I hope to do.
Well, you strike me as a man who, with many passions and talents, and kind of lived your life according to what felt pleasurable.
Yes, to some extent I think that's true. That has led me. Not entirely. There's certain things certainly you have to do, but as much as possible, yes.
You know, I interviewed an equine therapist, and she would use horses with children with disabilities or have learning disabilities or physical disabilities. Do you feel like golf can be used with children that have emotional or social problems as a way to teach them to get in tune with their bodies?
Not just children, adults too.
Sure.
I think one of the big issues is that many people are disassociated from their bodies.
Mm-hmm. And I'll explain for our audience that may not know. It's kind of, or I'll say how I.
Okay, go ahead.
It's like the mind living in one world and the body living in another. They're disconnected.
They're disconnected. So you're asking someone to swing, do something athletic. Meanwhile, they're really disconnected from their body. So first things first. In order to swing better, to play more effectively, it makes sense to get more in touch with one's body.
That's great. You know, it's time for that demonstration now.
Okay.
So we're going to cut it here,
Okay.
Dr. Harris, and we'll go over to the mat.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Jay, let me demonstrate a few things that we were talking about. Much of golf instruction has to do with all the action that goes on before the point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of what the instruction is about. The fact is the moment of truth is really what we're interested in. It really doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we get there. So I could swing like this, do all sorts of crazy stuff, and as long as the club gets there at a certain relationship to the ball, it's going to be a solid hit.
So is the moment of truth when the club strikes the ball?
Yes, let me show you what I'm talking about. The club is constructed in such a way that the shaft is in front of the, it angles in front of the head. It is constructed to be hit that way. So if the club meets the ball like this, the head is leading the shaft. You will not get a solid, no way you can get a solid hit. The only way you get a solid hit is if this relationship holds. Maybe we can get a close-up of the ball. It's a real tight, this is a tight hit, just like this. Now if we go back, you can see that, if you pull it back a little bit, you can see that the shaft is angled in front. And that's where you need to be to get a solid hit.
Now, are you, they say keep your eye on the ball and keep your head down. Is that why, to see where the
No.
club face hits the ball?
No, you can swing like this if you want. And still hit the ball.
That's the feel approach.
Okay? You can still hit the ball. You can do any number of things as long as you get it at the end where you want to get it. Okay, now let me show you something else.
I must say that is very freeing. You know, that there's not one way to bring a club back.
No. Now there are things that might make it a little easier, okay, to get it there, but it's not an absolute necessary. This is an absolute truth. There's no way of getting around this. Now another element that's interesting to me is the nature of a relationship. Okay? And when golf, there's a number of relationships going on. You're relating to the environment, you're relating to the club. The club has a mind of its own. The club is not going to adapt to you. You have to adapt to the club. So ideally, you want to let the club do its thing. The club has a certain personality. You want to let it do its thing. And let me show you something. Some people might say you're supposed to cock your wrist at a certain time in the backswing. So you can make effort to cock your wrist early or later, depending on whoever's teaching you. They might say one or the other. But the fact of the matter is, if you can watch, my wrists will automatically cock by the club. The club will cock the wrist. See this? I'm not doing anything. The club is doing it.
And you would feel that.
You would feel that. Now, I don't know if you can tell, I'm going to now cock it on purpose. I'm going to cock it on purpose. And I don't know if people can see the difference. I'll tell you, it feels differently.
Yeah.
It feels much different. This is a lot easier.
When you're working one-on-one with your clients, do you use videotape?
No.
Okay.
No videotape.
Because you want people to feel. You don't want people to think too much.
Right.
Okay.
One other thing that I want to show you has to do with this notion of pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which looks better, this or this?
I would say the second one you seem more free.
Really?
Yeah.
How about this? This feels better. This is smoother.
All right. We're going to have to cut it here. But if people want to find more information about you and your golf approach, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, we wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're fascinating.
Thank you.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs,